time for Mac Geek Gab, and listener JG brings us our quick tip of the week. He says, you know how in messages you can long press on an individual message and then you choose reply or a reaction or whatever you want, and then it jumps down into that reply mode. Well, if you just need to reply, you can tug on an individual message from the left to the right, and you just have to tug ever so slightly and then let go, and your phone will be in reply mode to that message, the whole threaded reply thing. Try it out. It's kind of like how you tug in the opposite direction to see the timestamps, which perhaps might be a quick tip of its own, but tug left to right on an individual message from the center of the message bubble or whatever, and you will be in reply mode. This is, we believe, new to iOS 17. More quick tips like this, plus your questions answered today on Mac Geek Gab 1009 for Monday, November 13th, 2023. Folks, and indeed, welcome to Mac Geek Gab, the show where you share your quick tips and cool stuff found and questions with us at feedback@macgeekgab.com. And then we, in turn, take those and share those with the audience. We'll try and answer your questions. Of course, we'll share some quick tips and cool stuff found of our own. We string it together into an agenda every week here so that each of us has a great shot at learning at least 5 new things every single time we get together. Sponsors for this episode include barebones.com's BBEdit, my favorite text editor, and linkedin.com/MGG, where you can go and post your first job for free. See how efficient I'm being? I just posted that job. We'll talk more in depth about each of those in a little bit. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, not yet caffeinated and probably going to be, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And here in Lee, New Hampshire, it's Pilot Pete. Good to be back. Good to be doing the show.
It is good to be doing the show. Yeah. It's been another early morning for me, but not because we had fun flying. I had to wake up. I had an electrician show up at my house in what I consider the middle of the night, 7 a.m.
Share with me. How do you get that to happen? How do you get a guy to show up at your house, an electrician?
Well, that's why I had to wake up for a 7 a.m. arrival, because he told us I'll be there at 7 a.m. And we were like, amazing. Yeah. Maybe we shouldn't go to sleep,
Right.
But whatever. It's fine. It's getting done. And we'll have, actually, it's all about our kitchen remodel mostly. But there is some fun stuff that I have the electricians do sometimes, and he's doing some fun stuff for me today. So I'm eager to test out this thing, and then I'll be able to talk about it on the show, and then the electrician becomes a tax deduction. So that's how it works. Speaking of the tax deductions that we call our Macs, Pete, does Neal have a quick tip to
Neal does
share
have a
with
quick
us?
tip, and it is awesome. So he says, gentlemen, I'm probably a day late and $1 short on this since I've been behind in listening to the show, but you were discussing the different key combinations to insert special characters, such as option semicolon to insert an ellipsis. There is a convenient way to find out all of these different key combinations, although getting to it is a bit of a pain. Not really. Once it's done, it's done. You need to set up the on-screen keyboard viewer. To do this, you need to go into System Settings, Keyboard, Text Input, then click on Edit and select the item to show the input menu in the menu bar. Once you've done this, you can select the input menu in the menu bar and show the keyboard viewer on screen. Each key is labeled with the character that will be inserted when that key is typed. So when you have that keyboard viewer,
tell me where to go again, just so everybody hears that.
Yep. So it's System Settings.
Yep.
Keyboard.
Yep.
Then Text Input, and click on the Edit menu and select the item to show the input menu in the menu bar. Yep. Then once it's up in the menu bar, you click on it and you show keyboard viewer. It'll say you have 2 options: show emoji and symbols, and show keyboard viewer. So if you show keyboard viewer, that comes up. Then when you hold down, I'm going to do it right now as I'm speaking. So then when you hold that, you get a picture of your keyboard up in the on your screen, and then when you hold down the Option key, it shows you that if, for instance, if you hit option N, you get that little tilde. No, yeah, I think it's the tilde.
Yeah.
Which makes the NY sound in Spanish.
The enye.
Yeah. So,
fascinating.
or if you hit the control key, it shows, what different ones you'll get. And so it's quickly, my favorite one, I think, was, the euro symbol. I can't tell you how many times I've looked for that. So I have to hit option shift on the 2 key to get the euro symbol. Instead of going to another website, searching for the euro symbol, cutting and pasting and all that, you can use this keyboard to go, that's how I get to it. So
option shift K lets you type the Apple logo, folks, if you wanted to know how to do that. So
no way. Look at that.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
So it gives you all those ASCII characters that they go in there. So he goes, this is very convenient. It worked in the past. However, in Ventura, I've not been actually able to get the input menu to show up in the menu bar. Some Googling suggests you need at least 2 inputs. You're on Ventura, though.
I'm on Sonoma here in the studio.
Or Sonoma.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on Ventura, so it worked for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he said maybe you need multiple sources or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It worked for me.
I only have
didn't even
one
think twice. I didn't read that far to tell you. So
I just have the US source and it seems to work fine. So
yeah.
I've known about that, but I did not have it on, and I need to have it on because there are times like when I need to find the euro symbol, or I want to know how to type the Apple logo and I don't remember, option shift K. I need to get option semicolon in my fingers, but I'll get there. I just got to keep saying it over and over again.
Right.
Rod shares another interesting thing. He says, I've never liked how macOS minimizes application windows to the dock as another icon, right? You click the little yellow thing and it minimizes down and it adds that window to the dock. He says there is a setting in system settings, displays, and dock, and the settings name is minimize windows into application icon. And if you turn that off, it takes the window and...
Dave, I'm sorry. Let me interrupt just briefly.
Yes.
You said displays and dock. It's desktop and dock.
Thank you so much. I was reading tiny text on my screen.
Yep. It's system settings, desktop and dock. Okay.
Got it. So system settings, desktop and dock. And then the settings name is minimize windows into application icon. Yeah. And when you turn that on, if you hit the little minimize thing, you'll see the window minimize or sort of shrink down into its application icon. You no longer get a separate icon for that window to bring that window back. But if you click,
it keeps your dock more efficient.
It keeps your dock cleaner. Whether it's more efficient or not depends on your workflow.
Cleaner.
Yeah, because if you minimize, say, 3 windows from pages, right? And you want to pull one of them up, if you do it the default, the old way, you just go and hover over the dock, you find the one with the name, you click, and up it comes. If you minimize them this new way, where you're just minimizing them into the application, you have to click on them all back. You click on the application and you get them all back. But you also don't know that you have them minimized. Like there's no visual indication of that.
Okay.
So as soon as I did this, I had the same reaction you did. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I want this. And then I was like, well, but do I? How much does this bother me? I mean, I get that we all have our own preferences, and that's that's the wonderful part of this. But so test it, see if it works for you. Great. If it doesn't, turn it back off. It's your computer. You do what you want. It's amazing.
Wait, can you do what you want on your own computer? I guess. All right.
I mean,
you have our permission.
You do. You have our permission.
But just this once.
But just this once. It's just because we're in the the pre-holiday spirit or whatever.
And from henceforth.
Yeah. All right, Pete, you've got a couple of tips of your own to share with us.
I did, and I have the blessing and the curse of having a wife who is not into jewelry.
Same.
But that makes her so difficult to buy for.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh, same.
It does. And I'm like,
yeah.
What do I get? I can't fall back on a bracelet or a ring or a necklace or,
There's no last minute punting for gifts. No.
Yeah.
It has made me a better gift giver, though, I will say. Like, my wife constantly says, how'd you come up with this idea? It's like, well, I had to. So, Pete.
Blind ass luck. Oops, excuse me.
Yeah,
Blind backside luck.
That's right. But, like, let's say that I am without the inspiration for the right gift idea.
Yeah.
You have an answer for us, don't you?
I do, because, several years ago, I lucked out. I gave her a jewelry box, and she's like, I love this. You put some thought into it, and, it's clear that and I'm like, woohoo. But I haven't been able to come up with a great gift idea like that since. And so I went, hey, ChatGPT. I want you to come up with help me find some gift ideas for my wife. And I want you to ask me up to 10 questions to help me figure out, narrow down what it is to do. And it asked me what does she like to do? What kind of hobbies, and I'm like, hobbies, not really reading, and it came up with some great ideas like, hey, a bed and breakfast getaway with a literary theme. And, and I said, and stay within New England. And
man.
So it came up with some great ideas by asking me questions about what her likes and dislikes are. And I told it, hey, no jewelry, right up front before even asking questions.
Right.
I said, hey, no jewelry, no tech, because I'm a huge tech. I love to give tech, right? She doesn't love to get tech as much as I love to give it.
Right.
So, fair enough.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, Lisa is she's nerdy in her way.
Yeah.
But she does like gadgets to a degree.
Yeah.
Like I could easily overdo it. Like she doesn't have as many gadgets as I do, obviously, but she's into the into the gadgety stuff.
Sure.
But this is brilliant. My other way, which I'll share because it might help somebody out there, is when I have a specific thing that I am shopping for a gift for, and with this one, Lisa doesn't generally I can't over jewelry her. She does wear necklaces and earrings and things like that, but I have to be careful. I can't just keep throwing jewelry at her. It won't land well. And so we had our 25th wedding anniversary last month.
Oh,
and so thank you. And so, it was 25 years and 3 weeks ago that Elvis sort of presided over our wedding in Las Vegas. Nice. It was amazing. Yeah. Our families were there. John was even there. But I went, as I often do when I have a certain occasion that I'm looking for gifts for, I'll search on Amazon for 25th wedding anniversary gifts, not necessarily to buy from there, but just to start getting ideas. I just need to sift. Now you're having ChatGPT do the sifting, which I kind of like, right? But oftentimes what I do is I wind up on Etsy, especially if I know that jewelry is an okay thing. And for our wedding anniversary, I actually got her this handmade silver, because it's, it was our silver anniversary. It's a silver pea pod, that's half open, and it has our birthstones, each of our birthstones, in the little, there's 2 peas in a pod, and it's our birthstones, and it's got, our initials carved in the back. And I was able to find somebody on Etsy in London that made it for me and shipped it to me in time. But I like your idea of ChatGPT, and perhaps the lead that we are burying here is something that you mentioned. You instructed ChatGPT to ask you questions.
Yes.
That is perhaps the most brilliant part of this, because not only does that work for gifting, it works for any other sort of brainstorming kind of thing.
Sure. Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, it absolutely does. And and here's the thing, to those that, now, fortunately, I don't think Debbie listens to this show. And
okay.
So, but I don't want to get accused of, oh, geez, you can't come up with something yourself. Hey, you know what? I'm sorry. It's
want
difficult.
Help. I'll take help.
You know what? I'll take help. Instead of asking her mother, what do you think? I'm making the effort to do something thoughtful, and I think that's the key.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, you are being presented, you are enlisting help in finding ideas, right? Just when I search Amazon for 25th wedding anniversary, I just want ideas. Something's going to jump out at me, and I consider myself an excellent curator. And so as I see these ideas come through, my skill is in selecting the best one.
Right.
And so,
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, these had some good ones. And, it came up with, does she like things or experiential? I went, she's definitely more of an experiential person. So
yes. Yeah.
So that's the direction we'll go. And by doing it now, by the way, this is the 13th of November is when this show hits the street.
Yep.
We're recording a few days before that. Do it now for Christmas because some of these are going to take you more than 10 or 12 hours to arrange.
Well, you shouldn't be doing this at like 10 p.m.
Don't do
on
this
Christmas Eve.
Yeah, it's not going to work. But I don't know. I feel like I got smart.
Dude, no, I think this is brilliant. This might be one of the best, the most valuable tips we've ever shared on this show. Yeah. So I like that. Pre-show, Pete, you were telling me about something that I didn't even know existed in iOS 17, so I wasn't able to prep it for the show, but tell us about this.
So it's new in iOS 17, and it's called Personal Voice. And it's touted, where I found it, it was touted by a gent talking about people who may have like ALS or some other condition where you're going to lose your voice, which will help you then be more communicative in your own voice. But you go into settings. This is on iOS. Go into settings, accessibility, and then select personal voice. And you're going to need 15 to 20 minutes in a very quiet environment.
Okay.
And it will have you read 150 phrases. And then once you're done with that, it'll say, okay, good to go. Now set me on a charger and leave me alone. And it says up to 24 hours. In my case, I think it took about 7 or 8 hours.
Oh, so that's still a long time.
It was a long time. And it won't do it unless it's on the charger. Even if you're at 100%, it's not going to crunch.
Yeah.
Because some serious crunching, I guess, is going on in the background.
I would imagine.
So it crunches down and then it comes back up and it says it's ready. And you can type in, any phrase you type in will sound very much like your own voice. Now, you can still tell it's AI generated voice. And I think Apple does that on purpose to avoid deep fake, for lack of a better word.
Okay,
but
fair.
Still, I could be wrong.
Right. Yeah.
But it sounded pretty good. And I've heard other people's voices, but it sounded very flat tone in their own voice. And I think the trick is, my recommendation is, be very animated. When you read the phrase,
be theatrical about it.
Be very theatrical and animated, and I think you'll get a better product in the end. So, and it isn't available on all. Apparently, I think it was Tennessee Papa just put in the notes there that it isn't available on some of the older devices. I don't know at which device it becomes available. I would imagine by the 12 or.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's see. Does Apple Personal Voice, does it say which create a personal voice on your iPhone, iPad, or Mac? So iOS 17, iPad OS 17, or Mac OS Sonoma or later, and it is an iPhone 12 or later, an iPad Air, 5th generation or later. Which gets
12 and newer for iPhone, according to
12 and newer. Yeah, 12 and newer for iPhone, and a Mac with Apple Silicon will do it too. So yeah, okay, interesting. All right, so I might do this on my Mac. Like, I mean, I got this Mac Studio up here. Like, and then, maybe and a nice microphone
you can share it
too,
across all your
right?
devices. You don't have to do it on each device.
Yeah.
Once it's done, you can export it to other devices on your Apple ID.
Oh, okay. So does it like sync across your Apple ID?
I don't know. I haven't done that yet.
Okay.
But it's a definite maybe.
I'm going to do it here in the studio on my nice mic and let it crunch.
Yeah.
And then I'll in a future episode we'll play it and see what happens.
And so, I'm guessing that it was. I'm guessing. Sorry if you heard that call coming in. I didn't. No, I'm not in the podcast mode.
We didn't hear the call.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All right. I'm guessing it'll do it much faster and a much better job on the Mac with the bigger processor. I mean, could be wrong.
I would assume. Yeah. Well, plus it also means I get to use my phone. So there's that too. Yeah. Exactly. And my Mac is usually pretty good.
And
at
I'd love to play it
background.
for you now, but I can't because my phone is my camera.
Your phone's your camera, right? Yeah, exactly.
And I look marvelous.
You do look marvelous. If you're not watching on video, folks, you can. You don't have to. We are very aware that this is an audio show. Really, we just started turning on the video because several years ago, you folks said it would be great to watch you record the show. So we've enabled this very voyeuristic experience. You can watch 2, sometimes 3 people record an audio podcast, and we stream it to YouTube and Facebook. And it lives forever out there on YouTube and Facebook. So you can go watch old recordings, and then we do chop up segments of it from time to time and put those out as well. But you don't feel like you're missing, unless you feel like you're missing something by not seeing us do it. You're not missing anything by not seeing us do it. Does that make any sense? Pete, you got one last one for us?
I do, and I got to pull up JF, but he essentially asked us, here it is. Listening to 1008 this morning and here in the Southwest, and after hearing text entry tips with the N-M- shift option and the proper ellipsis characters, I wondered how often do the tips that you learn and share on the show stick and become part of your daily Mac use? Are you at the stage where these things pretty much lock down? Or do you find, for example, Dave was talking about Command K to open the keyword manager in Photos becomes something you start using once you know about it? And he asked me, what's your example in your Mac use of something you learned and adopted right away? Could be a fun conversation for you to share. And then he shared one with us, Shift-Command-Slash. Dude, that's one right there. It became immediately part of my workflow. Shift-Command-Slash opens the help menu. That's one of the ones that I always had to go and take the mouse and put it up at the top and click on help and then start typing in the word within the menus. But if you hit Shift-Command-Slash, it opens the help menu.
Which slash? The one below the question mark or the one above the return key?
Below, /. Yes.
Forward. So it is. Yeah. Okay.
Below
so you said it right.
Mark.
Yeah.
Shift-Command /. It opens the help menu and you can start typing. So you aren't having to move your mouse to the top of the screen, find the help. Click on it. And I imagine if you've got things maximized, let me see if that works. My help menu goes away. My top menu goes away.
Right.
But you can still do that, and it does. It opens the...
I like it.
That became, right away, it became part of my workflow.
Yeah.
Immediately. So
I will, to answer JF's question, I will say that when I learned of the tug left to right thing, the opening quick tip, which I learned about maybe 3 days ago or something, it has become part of my fingers memory now. Like that doesn't always happen though. There are a lot of these tips, like the command semicolon, option semicolon, whatever it is for the dots.
Yeah, option semicolon for the ellipsis.
Yeah, I like that one's not in my fingers yet. Command Shift K or whatever it is, to Option Shift K to do the see, I can't even remember what it is for the Apple logo. Like that, those I have to keep relearning over and over again. But some of these where it's something that I will use right away, it instantly gets into my
right. And so that's why Shift-Command / became immediately part of my workflow as I was prepping the show questions. I was like, oh, where's this? Where's that?
All right, look, fellow small business owners, we all know that these days every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for our small businesses, and we want to be 100% certain that we have access to the best qualified candidates available, and that's why we love LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free, and LinkedIn Jobs has found the right people for our team time and again. I always talk about how Sadie is doing a fantastic job here. She's been here several years. LinkedIn Jobs, that's how we found her. She was not part of the ecosystem of people that we know here. She didn't know about Mac Geek Gab before she came on, but yet she was the right person, and LinkedIn Jobs helped us find her. It's super easy. You just go create a free job post over there on LinkedIn Jobs. Then you add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word, right, that you're hiring. And then you get to use these simple but really powerful tools like these screening questions that make it super easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire, because it's so important to find the right team member to have that positive and measurable impact on your business. And this is why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk with faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/MGG. That's linkedin.com/MGG to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply, and our thanks to LinkedIn Jobs for sponsoring this episode. And now I get to talk to you about BBEdit, one of my favorite apps and the text editor that I use. It's running all the time because with BBEdit, I get to exercise total control over my text, right? I can apply text transforms that make it super easy to batch apply any of BBEdit's powerful text transformations across multiple files, folders, open windows, you name it. You can use BBEdit's text processing inside Automator workflows. You can create, edit, format, or clean up any kind of text anywhere. And BBEdit's numerous built-in functions for converting, sorting, searching, and replacing text make it super powerful. You can locate and manipulate large volumes of text in small amounts of time with all of their great searching, including regular expression, grep matching, and multi-file searching with file filtering. You can quickly and easily filter a document's text or selection through any suitable Unix command, and you can make short work of repetitive text processing tasks without scripting or programming with their text factories. These things are super cool. And then, of course, on top of that, you just get to type. So if you're coding or whatever, it's right there. It's really well done. I use it to count the words and characters in documents. I use it to compare two documents. And they've got a generous eval model, 30 days of full function to try out the app, and then a fresh evaluation period for all customers with any versions pre-14 who were running in free mode. So go check it out, download it from barebones.com. You get to run it in full functioning mode for free for 30 days, and then you get to decide whether you're going to keep the full function mode or you're just going to go to free mode, but you figure it out. Go check it out, barebones.com, and our thanks to Barebones and BBEdit for sponsoring this episode.
So, Rand writes in with a question, and it's basically, can I Nuke-And-Pave my Mac? Yes, you can. He says, look, yes, you can. You have our permission, Rand.
You have our permission. That's correct. That's
Today
right.
only. Okay. I'm a big fan of OS X Monterey, and I had it on my MacBook Pro 16 M1. But while doing the recent Monterey Safari update, not Sonoma, the machine crashed and would not start for me, nor the local Apple Genius. So they sent it off. They sent the machine to Apple, and it came back with Sonoma and none of my data. Oh.
Yeah.
Can I Nuke-And-Pave and create a new Monterey system on the 16-inch M1 machine? He says, I have all the backup stuff that I needed. And so I reiterate, yes, you can.
You have our permission.
Next question.
And the answer is yes, you can. I recently...
It's not easy.
No, it's much different to truly Nuke-And-Pave with Apple Silicon than it was with Intel, right? With Intel, you go into disk utility, you go into recovery mode and you wipe the drive, right? You go into disk utility, you wipe the drive.
Yeah, had it install a disk.
And then go back. You don't even need the install disk, right? You go into recovery mode, you launch disk utility, you wipe the drive, you come back to main recovery mode, you launch the installer right from there, you point it at your freshly wiped disk, and you are off to the races, right? And that would install whatever operating system came with your Mac, which for Rand is Monterey. But except Rand is running an Apple Silicon Mac, and I can speak to this because I just did it. I was if you remember my sagas here in the studio, I was running Monterey. I decided to upgrade to Ventura, but I didn't want to upgrade my internal drive to Ventura because I wanted to be able to, boot into Monterey if it all crashed and burned. And so I put Ventura on an external drive, and it was like, this is fine. But now I was like, well, now I want to upgrade to Sonoma. I'm okay with where I was with Ventura. So I just want to put a fresh install of Sonoma on my internal drive, and then I'll use Migration Assistant to pull over my data from my external Ventura installation, right? Okay. So still we're in the realm of things. So I followed the steps that I knew to follow. I went into recovery mode. I went to disk utility and I told it to erase my internal drive. And it gave me this warning that was like, if you do this, it's going to erase your everything. And I'm like, yeah, I know that's what I want to do. And I was like, but this is weird. It's like, it's going to erase everything on your Mac. I'm like, well, you're not going to erase my external drives, but I already had a clone. Like I knew. And I thought, well, wait, I don't even need my extral drive connected. So I disconnected it. It's like, oh, you're definitely not going to, you're definitely not going to erase a drive that's powered off and disconnected. So I obviously felt
used
safe.
to erase every hard drive on the planet.
You're right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If it's that good, well, sorry, folks, it was my fault.
Yeah.
I thought I had permission. So I told it, fine, do that. Well, that's when things changed, Pete, because it was like wiping an iPhone, which, given that it's Apple Silicon, is not a great surprise. And so it was like, all right, we've erased this drive. We must now reboot your Mac. There was no go back to the front and start your installation. Oh, no. I had to reboot the Mac, and then it was like, oh, your Mac needs to be activated, just like your iPhone needs to. So I went through that, and then I was able to boot into this like weird recovery mode, sort of, and the only thing I could do was install Monterey. So I was like, okay.
Monterey?
Yeah, because that was the default, the base OS that came with this
for that
Mac.
machine. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
And so I was like, crap. So I did that. I installed Monterey. I had to log into Monterey to get the machine up and running.
Okay.
Yep. And then from there, I downloaded and installed Sonoma. And then, but I'd already created a user account. So I'm like, how can I do this? And so I tried again, like at that point, the wipe, and I'm like, well, maybe with Sonoma, it'll launch into the Sonoma installer after I do my hokey pokey. Nope. I put Monterey on again. I could not get it to boot into internet recovery mode because of, I don't know why.
Okay. Let me stop real quick.
Please do.
Did you have you didn't have an install? You're doing a download over the internet install.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Which is helpful because you have gigabit Ethernet. Not as helpful on a 300 baud modem.
Correct. I think I was doing a download over the internet, but it wasn't. Internet recovery in my previous experience would give me the latest operating system available for my Mac, whereas local recovery would give me the initial operating system for this Mac. Okay. And I kept getting the initial. So it might have been internet recovery, but it sure didn't feel like internet recovery.
Okay.
So but again, it's hard to say because I did have to connect to the internet in order to activate the Mac.
Sure.
So it was, but this was a bit of a goat rodeo to get through. Finally, I accepted that, okay, I'm just going to have to deal with this. So I put Monterey on. I downloaded the Sonoma installer again. I let it upgrade to Sonoma. I did not do any Migration Assistant yet. Once Sonoma came up, I ran Migration Assistant. And this was when things got interesting because Migration Assistant gave me an option that I don't think is necessarily brand new, but is certainly newer than the last time I ran it in this way, aka inside of an already running user account. And it said, hey, do you want to keep the user account that you have on this computer, or do you want me to archive that off and replace it with the user accounts from the drive that you're migrating from, so that you essentially get the fresh install without this bonus user account getting in the way and screwing up all your user ID numbers and all that stuff? And I was like, yes, the latter.
Please. Yeah.
This is a temporary user account that I had to create to get myself to the point where I could run Migration Assistant the way I wanted to. So yes, please get rid of it. And clearly an Apple engineer or two has been in that scenario, which is why we have this functionality. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the answer, Rand, is yes, you can. Not only do you have our permission, but you have Apple's blessing, and now you have instructions to do it. But it's a little convoluted. It's more like wiping an iPhone than it is wiping the Macs that we used to know and love.
Yeah.
So
I have one other question.
Man.
What does a goat rodeo look like?
I don't know.
I think Rand's about to find out.
I'm wondering. I mean, I had already made an image of two nerds giving people their permission, which I thought was going to be the episode image, and it might be.
Yeah.
But maybe I need to have
goats giving you permission. I don't.
With two goats giving you permission. All right. So draw a picture of a goat rodeo with two goats giving you permission. What about two nerdy goats?
Yeah, there you go. They got to have the broken glasses and
you
the
got
pocket
it.
protectors.
Yeah. On
their saddle.
Yeah. And I'm literally doing this in ChatGPT while we're recording here.
Right, because Dave can multitask.
Well, now it's just doing it. So we're off to the races. We'll see. Yeah. You will know, of course, by now, folks, which decision we made. But
this is true.
So you want to read Ronald?
Yeah, I do. So we were talking about AlDente in a previous episode.
Yep.
He says, I downloaded AlDente and set the MacBook Pro to 80% max charge and did the same on my iPhone 15.
For those who have never heard of AlDente before, it's an app that lets you do kind of what you can do on your iPhone, where you can limit the charging to 80% of the battery or whatever percentage you want. Right. In fact, AlDente gives you far more granular control than that. But it's to help keep your battery from overcharging and potentially causing it issues.
Exactly. So it's to help you optimize your battery usage and battery life.
Yep.
But he says, to my surprise, the iPhone's battery began draining like crazy with ordinary use. He says, normally I'd go all day, even on a busy day, with 80% on. By 4 p.m., I was down to 20 or 30% and had to turn my low power mode on soon thereafter or charge it on my way home in the afternoon. I also noticed that my MacBook Pro battery was also draining faster, but I'm not as sure as I am with the phone. When I turned 80% off but continued with battery optimization, my daily iPhone battery's life went back to normal. I also turned AlDente off. A Google search did not turn up anything. All occurred directly after 17.1 was released, iOS 17.1, and initially I thought it was caused by that. I never had any overheating problems. It's all very mysterious to me, but things seem back to normal. I just wanted to be aware in case you hear about it more. So I did some research on my own, and after conducting a search, I found a place on GitHub where another user had a similar issue with AlDente, and he mentioned that his battery health on his MacBook Pro was actually getting worse after using AlDente for 4 months. And he mentioned that this was only a software issue and does not result in any real damage, and it can be reversed with the calibration mode of AlDente or manually cycling the battery between 0% and 100%. I said, it's possible the battery drain issue is experienced and is related to AlDente, but I said, I'd recommend uninstalling it and observing the battery performance on your devices. And if the issue persists, consider talking to Apple support. But here's the thing, and I found somewhere in there, I found the comments too, and it's my observation. Some people are, the conspiracy theorist in all of us would say, well, Apple wants your batteries to get ripped up so that they can sell you more batteries. But
I don't think I buy into that.
I don't either. I think Apple wants you to have the best user experience possible. And I think their engineers are smart enough for all our devices to make the best use of the battery based on your, some learning going on there and based on your usage, that it's going to be, so I'm saying I think AlDente is probably a superfluous product.
So here's the thing. You might be right. That was certainly my interpretation of it when I first found out about AlDente. Yeah. It was like, years ago we needed things like this, but Apple's technology, the hardware of it and the software of it, have gotten so much better over the years. Yeah. And a large part of that is just the amount of data that they've been able to collect about how iPhones, like how mobile devices and batteries work, right? Like it's just so much more out there. Yeah. And so that was my initial thought about that. And then, I started hearing from some folks who leave their laptops plugged in all the time. We're like, but Apple's tech is way better, but there's still this thing where, it will charge too much. And that's why we get to do what we do on our iPhones and limit the charging to 80%, because your iPhone, the electrons, to use Adam Christensen's phrase from a decade ago, the best thing to do for a battery is to keep the electrons moving, either flowing in or flowing out, right? And so what happens with your phone is it follows that principle. Today, when you turn on that optimized charging, it flows electrons into your battery to get it up to 80%, and then it stops flowing them in, but your phone is still on. So it's slowly trickling those electrons out, right? So they're still moving. And then when it knows that you're, whatever, an hour from waking up, or however long it knows it's going to take, it blasts your battery up to 100%. And then also, you take it off charge and it stops charging. So it is still honoring that general idea of keep the electrons flowing. With your Mac plugged in on your desk all the time, or most of the time, those electrons aren't flowing quite the same way, Right. And so,
but Apple knows that.
I know, but they've always known that.
Well, right, but that's why I'm saying now, like in system settings, it's optimized battery charging.
Yeah, fair.
Reduce battery. There's an option there to reduce battery aging.
Yep.
Your Mac learns.
Yep. Yeah, it does. It does. And where it really came to life for me was when we moved Lisa from the Mac Mini that died to a MacBook Air.
The laptop. Yeah.
Correct. But it's a mostly plugged in laptop.
Sure.
And it was that day that I was like, do we really want to leave this plugged in for a couple of months at 100%? Because that's where, I watched it after the first week. It was just keeping it at 100. And I'm like,
right,
100. They tell you not to keep batteries at 100. They tell you if you're going to store it for a long time, get it up to 70 and then just chill. So I was like, let's see what AlDente recommends. And it was we recommend you set it at 70. And I'm like, that fits with, there's a lot of confirmation bias going on here. Sure. And I get that. But also, 100% seemed wrong to me. So we are still running AlDente on her laptop there. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see.
So there was a photo on GitHub or a chart. It was a screen capture of a chart that showed what normal battery usage should be and what his was, and that's what it was showing that, hey, look, you're getting much worse performance out of yours. But in the settings, you've got energy mode on battery, on power adapter, and it's automatic, high power, low power, and you get to choose how to optimize it. And I think it's I don't know. Let go and let Apple. I could be wrong. I could be helping them to charge me for a new battery sooner, but I don't think so.
No, I don't think there's a conspiracy here.
Yeah.
There is another conspiracy that I'm going to talk about in a minute, but I don't think there's one here. Yeah. But I'm just, I want to see more data, and I want to be cautious until then, I guess is really where it comes from.
Yeah.
Because she can't unplug. Her laptop is plugged into a dock that feeds her monitor and, other peripherals. So she can't unplug it occasionally. Right, because you unplug it and now the dock stops charging, but then it's just laptop mode. Correct. Yeah. Like her Bluetooth keyboard would work, but no extra screen and all that stuff. Speaking of conspiracy theories, but please let us know. If you've got even all of our anecdotal experience together here really does kind of help inform us all. So feedback at macgeekgab.com.
Wait. Where? Feedback at macgeekgab.com?
That's right. Feedback at macgeekgab.com. Unless you're a premium listener, then you get to email us at premium@macgeekgab.com.
Premium. Yeah. I'm going to make a banner for that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Why not? Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So there was a couple of weeks ago, this video started making the rounds from Adam Savage at why can't I think of the name of it? The guys who figure out how things work and all that stuff. And it was this video that they used this.
They put a CT scanner on it, right?
They put a CAT scanner on an Apple Thunderbolt.
$120 cable.
Yeah, the 2 meter, $130 Apple Thunderbolt cable, right?
Yeah.
And there were lots of these that this video sort of went nuts in our community here. Chances are you've heard of it. Lots of you shared it with us. And we hadn't really said anything about it until now. I was like, yeah, okay, that's cool. we had just finished going through how in our, again, anecdotal testing, we could discern no functional difference between a Thunderbolt certified cable and a USB 4 cable. And, you know, a USB 4 cable is often half or slightly less than half the price of a Thunderbolt cable, but worked with all of our Thunderbolt peripherals, including Thunderbolt hubbing. The USB 4 cable passed power, like all of those things. So functionally, no difference. One is certified Thunderbolt, one is not even calling itself Thunderbolt, but functionally they did the same thing in every test we could run. We also said at the time, like, if I'm running a mission critical thing here where I've got something connected to my computer full time for years, I'm probably going to spend the extra $30 or whatever and just get the Thunderbolt cable instead of, you know, wondering what my tests missed, right? So it was with that I was like, well, this is interesting. And so I watched this video, and sure enough, you know, they did this CAT scan of Apple's cable, and they go through the connector itself, which has like a ton of circuitry in it. And then also they look at the cable too and see how each thing is individually shielded.
Yeah,
so
they
that
did
it's
a cross section of the cable, and
it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And it does show this Apple cable. And if that's all the video did and it just stopped right there, I have no issue with it, right? It was sponsored by the company that was making the CAT scanners. And so that was fine. Like, they were upfront about that. No problem. But what was really weird to me is that they did this whole, you know, cross-section deep dive into Apple's cable at $130 for a 2-meter cable, Thunderbolt cable. And then they scanned 3 other cables, the most expensive of which was a $13 Amazon Basics USB-C cable. And they showed how it didn't have nearly the same smarts as Apple's Thunderbolt cable. There's a little bit of emphasis that I'm sharing here to highlight that there's far more difference than the price of these things. The $13 USB-C cable doesn't even attempt to claim that it's doing the same things as a Thunderbolt cable. It would not work to connect your Thunderbolt devices.
Right.
A USB 4 cable would. An Otherworld Computing Thunderbolt cable would. Why didn't they compare it against those that are functionally similar?
You know, that's a good point. I hadn't considered it in that sense that, you should have done it with some others that were obviously much lower in price.
But actual competitors.
Claim to do the same thing. Yeah.
Correct.
Apples to apples. Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah.
Pun acknowledged.
It was sort of intended. Yeah. Accidental pun. But,
yeah. So that was the part of this. It was like, why did they do this? Yeah. And why did all of the reporting that I saw about it not mention? It was just like, Apple's Thunderbolt cable is amazing. It's like, okay, yeah, granted, but can we talk about what we're being like? This is not a comparison worth doing. Why was it
in the
done?
sense of, well, the only other, what I got out of it was, don't buy the $3 cable.
Mm-hmm.
Because they did, one of the ones they did was a $3 cable, and that USB-C cable was clearly not even going to work, but in one direction. You couldn't plug it in upside down and have it work at all.
That's right. Yeah, that's a great point. If you take the dissection of Apple's cable out and look at the comparison of the 3 others, the Amazon Basics $13 cable, and then all the way down to that, you know, $3 cable, then you know which USB-C cable to buy. Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was 2 different things. I don't know. It just seemed fishy to me. I don't want to put tinfoil hats on anybody, but seemed
I wonder if
like
it was just an oversight, because I didn't catch that. I'm glad you caught that. It didn't even occur to me that, there were other cables out there claiming to do what the Thunderbolt cable did.
Including other Thunderbolt
cables. Than $13, but...
Yeah, but like OWC's 2-meter cable is half the price of Apple's 2-meter cable. I want to know what the difference is between those 2.
Right.
Does it matter? And I want to know what the difference is. And then I want to know, okay, there is or isn't a difference. Even if there is, does it matter? Like, at 2 meters, do we really care about whatever extra, if anything, the Apple cable's doing. I don't know. So
because I'll tell you what though, I was amazed by the microtech down in there, the PC board and the microchips and all kinds of stuff going on in those cables. Like holy smokes,
super over-engineered, and it's to eliminate interference and give you a super clean signal, which again, amazing.
Great, yeah.
So anyway, that was my thing. That's my rant for the week. You have our permission to yell at me for ranting because we really don't rant a whole lot here. I needed to shake my fist a little bit about that because it felt suspect. Like you go and look at all of the publications. I guess I'm not done. That wrote about this, and these are smart people, many of whom I would consider peers and colleagues or co-opetition. Like we know each other. And they're smart people, and not one of them said this. Like, what's going on here? Anyway.
Dave, I think it's just an oversight. I think it's the way your mind works that you went, hey, there's other cables here you guys didn't think to include.
You know what? I'll give everybody the benefit of the doubt. We had just finished going through that.
Each cable, right?
Yeah. So maybe, my lens on this was different. Maybe there is no conspiracy. Maybe. Or maybe there is.
Maybe there is.
You want to take us to Paul, Pete?
I do.
Save us from this craziness.
So, first was Rand, now there's Paul. Paul writes...
We don't do politics on this show. What's going on?
I know.
You have our permission to yell at us about that, too.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Paul Conaway writes in, he says, I thought I heard that you can customize what you see in standby mode on another tech... Whoa. Mr. Conaway, you're listening to other tech podcasts?
We encourage you to listen to other tech podcasts.
All right.
That's how we all learn.
You have our permission just this once. But I can't figure out how. I've been able to switch between photos. Let me back up and read it again because of the interlude. I thought I heard you can customize what you see in the standby mode on another podcast, but I can't figure out how. I've been able to switch between photos and different clock settings, but what I'm looking for is the ability to add widgets from the iPhone's apps to one of the screen's options. I haven't been able to find a way any about this, but is this a thing? Can it be done? You ask.
It can, yes. You can definitely customize it. You aren't going to get all the widgets that you think you want, or even that you want.
Yeah.
There are fixed widgets that are available in standby mode, and there's not too many of them yet. Presumably more coming. Think of it like your Apple Watch. And if you don't have an Apple Watch, think of how we've described, say, changing faces on your Apple Watch or adjusting complications. It is that user experience paradigm that I find most helpful when adjusting things in standby mode. You can swipe to the left and right to get different sort of macro views, different faces, if you will. And then within the faces, you can swipe the different things to, the different widgets to change back and forth. And you can also hold down and decide which widgets would appear in the, in that face. But you're going to be limited. But think of it like a watch. Press and hold, swipe. Those are the things. And of course, if you're doing this in standby mode, don't jiggle your phone too much because, it'll take it out of standby mode as well. And
there you go.
Which is super fun. Yeah.
And I just want to register my complaint here with Apple. I don't like the word complications.
Oh, that's not Apple's word, Pete. As a watch geek, you can have an issue with the term.
Yeah.
But that is Apple adopted that word from the from horology, from the watch lexicon. Okay. Because if you think about where it came from, it actually makes sense. But I also get why, if you have no idea where it came from, you would say this is stupid.
Gotcha. Okay. It makes the watch more complicated. I get that.
No, think of a watch. A standard analog watch has one function, right? It's just going to show you the time in 12-hour mode. Right. Okay.
And maybe the date and calendar.
Now let's say you want the date on there. Yeah. We will add a date complication to the movement, right? Thinking of an analog mechanical watch.
Making the watch more complicated.
You want a second hand? That is a complication. You want to put the moon phase on there? That is a complication. And of course, if you're buying, high-end mechanical watches, every complication you add, you could just basically add a 0 to the end of the price, and that's how they price these things. Yeah. You want a tourbillon in there to like, these are all these different complications. So that's where the idea, because the idea of these complications is on a mechanical watch, it would show you on the face of the watch the result of the complication, right? The date or the day or whatever it might be. And so
I'm surprised they didn't call it widgets, I guess was my point.
That would be a much better term.
Yeah. For an electronic watch, obviously.
Yes.
I get it's more complicated than a mechanical analog.
No, but you're the term fits with a mechanical watch. Widgets fits with and I mean, we're doing it here. We were, sharing the answer of how to adjust your standby mode widgets. I started talking about how to adjust your watch complications, and I mean, I think I literally said, think of it the same way. It's like, well, why are we using this literally antiquated term? Yeah.
Yeah. So I get it. I'm surprised they didn't, Apple's certainly cut their own path on so many occasions. I'm surprised they didn't on this one, but
I am too. When they announced the watch, it was a big deal for them and they were nervous. Yeah. Like, I think they wanted it.
They weren't sure people wanted wearables. I'm not sure I wanted a wearable when they announced it.
Yeah. And like, I remember I was at that event.
In fact, that's when we had breakfast in San Jose
No, that wasn't that day, because this was on Apple's campus.
Oh, okay. I thought that was the watch day. All right.
No, this was on Apple's campus in Cupertino. No, where you and I had breakfast in San Jose was like an iPad event, I think, at the theater there in downtown. But yeah, they invited me out for that one. They don't invite me for everything, but they invited me for that because they knew I was like a watch nerd. And the vibe there was very like, it was different than most events. They were clearly nervous, but also just the attendees. I would say like maybe half of the attendees were not techie people. They were people from like the watch nerd world. Okay. And so it was pretty obvious what was coming, right? Like, it's like, oh, wait, you write for Hodinkee? Oh, okay, well, I know why you're here. Like, I know why we're all here, right?
Yeah.
And they had like a hands-on thing afterwards or whatever, and
I remember you saying that you got to put it on and you felt the little tap in the haptics, like, and that it was kind of unique, and I was like, it
was very different. Yeah. But the conversations that I had with like Apple employees that I know or whatever in the hands-on room afterwards showed a person who had just been through an ordeal and finally got to breathe. Was the vibe. I think they were all pretty tightly wound about that announcement and how it might go, and would people be happy or would people be, scratching their heads over, why are you making this thing? So, yeah. So that's all to say that might explain why they didn't want to reinvent that terminology. They wanted to appeal to the luxury watch lovers. But whatever their path was, it worked.
Oh, right. I mean, fair enough. Because I'll tell you, I don't know how many years earlier I had essentially abandoned a wristwatch. When I want to know what time it was, I would simply pull out my phone and look, because it was always with me. Yep. And it took it was almost less work than looking at my wrist. Almost.
Yeah, right.
So for years I didn't have a wearable, and I think that was very much their trepidation to create a wearable. Do people want one? There's no demand out there, but by the same token, there was no demand for an iPod, and there was no demand for an iPhone.
Correct. Well, there was more demand for an iPhone than there was for an iPod at the moments where they released each of those products. Yeah,
sure. And they wound up coming up with these products that we didn't know we wanted, and now we have to have.
Correct. Lots of them. Too many of them. Speaking of products that we didn't know we needed until we had them, Ari writes in and says, I know you stay pretty up to date on the automatic/robot vacuums. Which one is your current favorite? Okay, I have a couple of favorites here. So I've tested the Eufys from Anker, the Neato, and the Roborock. I've tested some others too, but those are kind of the ones. Currently, my favorites are the Roborock and the Neato. They just seem to do. I haven't tested the very latest from Eufy, so like bear that in mind, and I probably will, and then maybe I'll add that in back to the favorites list here. But you know, the Roborock. The Roborock is, if I had to then pick between the Roborock and the Neato, I'd probably lean for the Roborock, but they're both really, really close. Right now, I'm running the Roborock Q5, and I think it's the Q5 Plus because it has the auto emptier thing, which I'll talk about.
Yeah,
and then the Neato D10, which does not have the auto emptier. And I wouldn't say you need the auto empty functionality. I believe that was created for people who said, well, what's the use of having a robot vacuum if I have to empty it all the time? Well, the reality is we run ours every day. It runs in the middle of the night, except for the one in our bedrooms, which runs while we're having dinner on a different floor of the house. But, you know, we run them every day. And I find that if I empty it once a week, that's fine. It's, you know, it packs the stuff into its little container. And so that's totally fine. And at least once a week, the vacuum is going to pick up something like a cat toy or a pipe cleaner, which in our house are also cat toys. And you need to mess with it, or it gets stuck in a corner that it shouldn't get stuck in, or, you know, whatever. And so you got to pick it up and put it.
Grab shoelaces like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You know, or backpack, like the straps from a backpack or whatever, like those kinds of things. And it's no big deal. But you pick it up and you're going to put it back on its base. And while I'm doing that, even the one that empties itself, I will empty the container, because why do I want the other thing to fill up any faster than it needs to? I've got the stupid vacuum in my hand, and it's really not that stupid. It's quite smart. Yeah. But I've got it in my hand. I dump it out, and I also take that moment, usually a couple times a month, to take either they all come with these like specially formed like little knives to cut all the hair that's going to wrap around the roller. So I'll be like, oh, there's a ton of hair, pet hair or human hair, whatever it is, you know, on the roller. I'll clean that off while I'm at it, you know, and then I put it back on its base. It charges and it's good to go for the next round. But the feature that really is the game changer, and I've had vacuums before and after this, is LiDAR navigation. I will not use a robot vacuum without LiDAR navigation now. It changes everything about how these things can work and navigate your home and not run into stupid things.
But Dave, that's creating a map of your home and sending it to China.
It sure is. Yep. And if the Chinese want
a map of your home,
if some bad actor in China wants to bother to get on a plane or even just ship the map of my home to someone here in the United States, you can get a map of my home by going to my town's website for free. Like the floor plan is right there. Yep. So it really isn't a problem. Yeah. And I love it. Like the LiDAR mapping is so much more than just having the map of your home. But that in and of itself is fantastic, because you can say, oh, clean this room, don't clean this room. Like on the spot.
You can put up invisible walls.
Correct.
No-go zones.
The no-go zones, but it also is seeing things. And so like all those stories, and somebody's putting something in the Discord about, you know, like a vacuum with dog poop, you know, driving it around the house or whatever. That happens far, far, far less often with these LiDAR scanners, because they put pattern recognition into them. And so they notice, oh, don't go there, you know.
Well, so I have a story about that.
Oh, is it with a LiDAR vacuum?
Watching on video may see over my left shoulder. Yeah, my little girl, who's 50 pounds, who's going to be 15 next month. And last month she got left alone for many hours while we went to a funeral, and came home to the Roborock. I think it's the 6 or the 7. Okay, it has LiDAR, and it didn't recognize.
It didn't. So, that sucks.
Now the good news is we had taken up all the carpets. We are down to the bare wood floors, and so much easier to clean up.
That's way
much
easier to
clean the vacuum.
Sure.
But boy, was that frustrating to see. It's like, oh man, I thought it was supposed to avoid that.
I did too. Yeah. Well, there you go. But These are game-changing things. I have not yet tried a robot vacuum with mopping capabilities, right? Like,
I think the 8 Plus has that, and I've got one. I'm going to break it out of the box, and,
okay.
and I'll be ready to jump in on the next.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I'd be curious to see, for like a kitchen area, obviously that could also be kind of a game changer. So, yeah, but there are lots of good ones out there. We've mentioned 3 brands. My guess is that the Eufys with the LiDAR and all of that stuff are equally as good as the others. I just haven't had an opportunity to test those yet. But
and if you've got pet hair in your house, man, it's so much easier to stay in front of it when it's done every day.
Yep.
You just aren't going to break out the vacuum cleaner every day and do the entire house.
No way. No way. And it's really nice if you're going to have people over or whatever. We can say, all right, we just tell it, from our watch or our phone, go vacuum the living room quick. And in 20 minutes, it's done. But your involvement in that was to tell it, go vacuum the living room quick. And then it just goes and does its thing. It's really nice waking up every morning to a freshly vacuumed house. And I've noticed it because, as I mentioned, our kitchen's been under construction. So we have not had the vacuum running on the ground floor of the house for almost 2 months now. And it's like, the other day, Lisa and I were like, okay, yeah, like we gotta run the thing, this is getting ridiculous. Yeah. But I mean, our house is just a mess. It's like, we're close though. Really, really, really close. In fact, maybe by now the electrician that's over there will have finished with like one of the last pieces. So
you still haven't answered my question. How do you get the electrician to show up in under 7 months?
Yeah, I gave you the name of the guy that's here. So
he'll be here. Yeah.
Okay.
He said he could see me in May.
Seriously?
Seriously.
I don't know how I got him. Then I don't know the answer to that question, Pete. Charmed life, I suppose. Yeah.
So I said yes. I think I've got a beat on another guy before then, but that's a personal thing off to the side. Let's go back to questions. We're way down a rabbit hole here.
We are way down a rabbit hole.
And the poor rabbit didn't do anything to invite us in.
No, Fernando has a question that we've been kind of tossing around for a couple of weeks here. And I don't know what I did. Oh, no, I have it right here. Fernando asks, is there a way to globally disable the Command-H keyboard shortcut that hides the frontmost application? I never use it, and I'd like to use Command-H in my Tmux config. And the answer is yes. There's a couple of ways to do this. If you go in to system settings, keyboard shortcuts. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then go to, which one is it? Yeah. If you go to app shortcuts, you can add a keyboard shortcut for individual applications or for all applications. In Fernando's case, I would choose all applications, and I would map Command-H to whatever you want to map it to. And then it will no longer be mapped to the default of any given application. Whatever you do here, again, system settings, keyboard shortcuts, app shortcuts, whatever you do here takes precedence over whatever's built into an app. So you can change things and add things here. And that should do it. So you could map it to you could map it to a dummy menu item. You could put, you could map Command-H to a menu item named "Don't Get Caught," right? And then, assuming you have no apps with "Don't Get Caught" as a menu item name, Command-H will do nothing, and then that's the end of that. So that should.
So I wonder if you could follow your own advice and prevent yourself from inadvertently pausing the recording, Dave.
I can. Yes. Yeah, we were talking pre-show that I noticed the recording was paused, which scared me because that had never happened accidentally before. And I thought about that. I thought about doing a mapping for audio hijack only for Command B to be something dummy and, routing it into nowhere essentially. So yeah.
Because,
yep. The other way you could do this is if you run, say, Keyboard Maestro. Right. And you can tell Keyboard Maestro to trigger an action based on Command-H. And And you could even have that action be a little dialogue that pops up and, says, hey, you accidentally hit Command H. I just thought you might want to know. But in Fernando's case, he wants to map it to his tmux config, so he can absolutely do that. And you could use Keyboard Maestro to trigger an automation that files into that, like all of those things. So there's lots of different ways.
To skin that cat.
Yeah, that's right. We don't like to skin cats here. We're not into animal cruelty, Pete.
Oh,
Okay.
Sometimes they deserve it.
Wow.
Not the cats, the keyboard strokes.
The keyboard strokes. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
That cat deserves to be skinned. Get that keystroke to get what you need.
That's right. I don't know where we're going with this. Yep. No politics. We broke that rule. Yep. We broke the animal cruelty rule.
We're in goat rodeos and skin cats. So
yeah, I don't know, man. I do want to take a second and say thank you to all of the folks who are part of our Mac Geek Gab premium program, which you can learn about at macgeekgab.com, macgeekgab.com/premium. It's only been a few days since we've recorded the last episode because of some scheduling things, but I wanted to take a minute and thank the following folks for their $10 contributions that have come in since then. Cal from Russellville, Donald from Furlong, and Chris from Chorleywood. Thanks to each of you. And then $25 contributions from Scott in Columbia, Peter in Fort Myers, and Charles in Midlothian, and a $40 contribution from Rand in Portland. So you all rock. Thank you. Thank you. And if you want to learn more about that, of course, macgeekgab.com/premium. We have some time, Pete, for some cool stuff found.
Oh, break out your wallets, folks.
I wanted to, it seems like, things happen in themes here on Mac Geek Gab. Steve Hammond sent in a pretty cool one that I had never seen before. It is OWC's Drive Speed for iPhone. And it's designed for iPhone users who need to monitor and optimize video transfers between their iPhones and external drives. And sure enough, like it's an iPhone app that will show you the speed of those transfers and let you test the speed and make sure that you're getting. This is super handy. It also would run on iPad. This will let you know, is your cable fast enough, right? Like, which is an important thing when if you're transferring data a lot from your iPhone or iPad to an external drive. So yeah, I thought that was pretty good. I would imagine whether you're cabled or using Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, is it doing that too, or only on a cable? My guess is that you would only use this for a cabled connection. Okay. But like because how else would you? No, it forces you to point at a disk. So gotcha. Yes, it's for a cabled connection. Gotcha. Absolutely. Drive speed. Yep. Hence drive speed. Yeah. Okay. Related to that, one that I've actually had in the list for a little bit because it came up when answering a few questions a couple of weeks ago is another app that you can get for free called BlackMagic's Disk Speed Test. Now, this is one that we've talked about here on the show many, many times over the years, and it's essentially the same app for your Mac, right? And would not surprise me if this was the inspiration for OWC creating the iPhone app that we just mentioned, because you kind of want it on that platform now too. But it's super handy to be able to test again. Is like when I talk about SSDs on the show that I've reviewed or whatever, and I say, yep, and it tests out to 2,400 megabytes a second reads and 2,300 megabytes a second writes. It's BlackMagic tests that I'm running on those drives. And I let it run for a long time to get through any caching and all of that stuff, and really just, lets me see what that drive can do. Not only does it let you test the drive, it lets you test for whatever weak link in a chain you might have. And so it's a great way to test. Does this cable actually let me send at full speed? I know the drive tests out with a known cable, so now let's swap the cable, changing one variable. Does it still work? Another thing that's really interesting is if you're using, say, a Thunderbolt dock and you have a display connected to that dock, and then you hang a drive off of that dock, watch what happens to your write speeds to your drive when you have a display running. Because guess what? That display takes up a little bit of bandwidth.
They're going to have to share.
They're going to have to share, and the display is using it full time. So it's really a handy sort of setup tool when I'm configuring an environment to say, all right, wait, where am I putting the drives, physically and logically? Let me make sure I put them in a spot where they can be the most efficient. And then maybe I'll put the display and like my audio device or something shared on that port, because neither one of them is going to use full speed and, that kind of thing. So, yeah. Fun. So that's those two. And then on the subject of speed, one last cool stuff found for today is Robster shared with us something called OpenSpeedTest, which is an HTML5 speed test that you can do for your internet speeds, but you can self-host it. And he says, I have it running on a Mac Mini connected via Ethernet so that there are no bottlenecks to or from that particular machine. Then he says, all I have to do is type in the address for that machine server from any device on my network, and I can see how fast any given device is compared to its Ethernet connectivity. So this is simpler than, arguably simpler than setting up an iPerf server and then having to get an iPerf app for your iPhone in order to test things. You can do this with a web browser, and he says he's able to see full gigabit speeds when on a connection that's, that would support that. So
yeah. So you mentioned iPerf. Now you got to tell people what that is, just ever so briefly. It's
a terminal command that you can run in either client mode or server mode. And so the idea behind iPerf is you run it in server mode on one of your Macs, or I have it running on one of my disk stations. And then I run it in client mode on my Macs from the terminal. iPerf 3 is the command. And then my iPhone, I had to go download an iPerf app because I can't get into the terminal on my iPhone and install apps. And so then I can speed test to my disk station, similarly to what Robster just described doing with OpenSpeedTest. So, yep. But this looks a little easier to set up. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Nerdy stuff, but, that's what we do here. We're nerds. You have our permission to be a nerd.
There you go.
Yep. You have
Just
our permission to attend a goat rodeo just this once. That's right.
And from henceforth.
and from henceforth. That's right. Yes. Just this once and any other time. Thanks for hanging out with us, folks. A fun one. Yep. Send in your stuff. Feedback at MacGeekGab.com. We love getting your questions and tips and comments. Not only do we get to learn, we get to share. We all learn together. I love our community. And if you are not yet a part of our Discord, please feel free to join us. All are welcome. It's MacGeekGab.com/Discord. We'll get you there. And there's a link from the homepage of MacGeekGab.com too. It's a wonderful community. It's, I don't even have to knock on wood about this. I probably should, but I'm not gonna, because it's no great surprise to me how kind and helpful our community is. Everybody that's ever emailed us over the years, even with, negative feedback, has also been kind and wonderful. And it's just an awesome little oasis on the internet of people helping each other. And I love it. So That's our Discord community. Yeah,
but if you've got negative feedback, give it to another show.
No, we want it. We like to improve. I think maybe that's part of it. Is like,
we like constructive criticism. The
absolutely.
Negative feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair. I'll take that.
Saying.
That's right. You have our permission to give us negative feedback just this once.
That's it.
So yeah, thank you for hanging out. Thanks to Cashfly for providing all the bandwidth to get the show from us to you. Go check out Pete's other shows. So There I Was for aviation enthusiasts. Go check out Business Brain, another show I do for small business owners, entrepreneurs, and enthusiasts. And then Gig Gab for musicians and enthusiasts. All kinds of enthusiasts. What would this show be? Apple enthusiasts. So, it's what we do.
Tech.
The niches are fun. And so we do lots of them. So go check those out and follow us on Mastodon. I'm getting more into Mastodon again here. I'm finding it to be an easier thing to use. And we've got links in the show notes where you can find each of us there, including a link to the app I like to use called Mona. There are others. Whatever app works for you is great. So, yeah. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks to our sponsors, of course, LinkedIn.com/MGG. And barebones.com. Go check them out and check out all our sponsors, macgeekgab.com/sponsors. We made it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Starting to feel the dehydration that comes along with not sleeping enough. So hopefully I didn't lip smack too much during the show. Pete, you have any advice? 3 words. You have my permission to share 3 words of advice.
Don't get caught.
Made on a Mac.
Later.
So long.
All right. And we're out, I think.